Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Miguron / AMEIGHT Glear in S90V. I'm going to cut right to the chase. The price on this knife is excellent. I will link it right down below. It is available. You should definitely check it out. It helps my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. I owe Miguron and honestly a couple other companies an apology because I was incorrect about the optimal heat treat zone for S90V. I think I was confusing it with something else, but these are being heat treated anywhere from 59 to 61, which is typically a range that I criticize when I'm talking about M390. But as I've pointed out many times, it depends on the composition, the optimal range, right? So M390 has a different optimal range than S90V or S110V or S45VN, etc. I was thinking that S90V had a higher optimal range when in reality, it doesn't. Actually, S90V is one of those steels, which is the case with the vast majority of steels that we see on pocket knives, that its original primary application is not cutlery. It's like industrial food prep or something. So it has actually a much lower optimal range when it's being used for its primary application. When it comes to folding knives, it's heat treated a little bit higher than that, but it's still much lower than I thought it was supposed to be. Miguron is heat treating these to 59 to 61, which is actually very good for S90V. Now, some people are going to prefer it to be a little bit higher, which would make it a little more brittle, and some people might prefer it to be a little lower, but I was wrong when I said that they were too low. I want to be very clear about that. I'm going to try and correct it moving forward. That makes the price on this that much better. It is shocking. I think this is probably Miguron's best knife at the moment, but there's no part of me believes that believes that they're just going to stop here. I'm going to tell you guys what I think. It's not going to be a long video, so let's go ahead and get into it. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram if I didn't say that. Let's go ahead and get a measurement on this knife. Overall length of the Glear coming in at 8 1/4. Beautiful full-size knife. Blade length is actually 3.65. Yeah, cutting edge coming in at about 3.35, thanks to a fairly large forward choil. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? We're a bit at an angle here, so it's looking to be almost exactly the same size. In fact, now it's a 1/4 inch shorter. It looks to be exactly the same, but the Rat 1 is a little longer. It's definitely larger than the Rat 2. How about up against the Spyderco? This is not a Spyderco, the Demco 80-20.5. There we go. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. There we go. And let's do some new ones. How about up against the Civivi Elementum? This is the button lock variant, and the CJRB Pyrite. Alrighty. And then finally, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. Alrighty. So how's the action on this knife? The action is very, very good. In fact, as you can see here, it is fall shut. A nice, controlled fall shut. Very, very beautiful. The flipper tab is fine. I would call this a medium detent, but it works well with this knife, especially considering the length and size of the flipper tab. The thumb studs are okay. I think they probably could have been positioned a little bit higher, but they absolutely work, and you can reverse flick it just fine. There is absolutely no double clutch or anything like that. And unfortunately, you cannot get at that fuller because it tucks itself underneath the frame. But that's okay. It deploys readily, and it's a pretty luxuriously smooth action. I'm very happy with it. Let's do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's about the same, but these are contoured scales, and they are titanium, so obviously it's going to be heavier. Up against the PM2 and Para 3 in terms of length and height, you can see here this guy is about the same length as the PM2. Not quite as tall, but the flipper tab does make this part of the knife fairly tall. Not too bad. Materials, like I said, CPM S90V, which is, oh, that's so good. I love that we're seeing that in this territory now. I also love that I was wrong about the optimal heat treat zone. Again, it's up for debate, but I was wrong about that, which means that this is a very good zone, and we're actually getting, debatably, our money's worth out of this steel, which is, it's amazing. I mean, I have knives that cost 10 times as much that I'm very happy to pay. You know, I mean, obviously there's other elements there, but S90V is one of those steels where I'm like, yeah, I mean, whatever, right? Custom knife, production knife, whatever. S90V is an excellent steel. Not super duper tough, but okay, right? At least right around where M390 should be. Still very stainless and amazing edge retention. Absolutely amazing edge retention. So S90V, and then we have titanium, which has been milled out on the inside for weight reduction, if you can see that. Let's go ahead and weigh it. I bet this thing weighs at least 5 1/4, probably more. Nope, I'm wrong. 4.87 ounces, which isn't bad at all. Not a perfect 1-to-1 ratio with the overall length, right? If we're going by the whole ounce and inch rule, but not everybody cares about that, right? I certainly don't. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. Oh, wait, balance, if you want to know. Balance is about right here, a little ways back of the pivot, so definitely a little butt heavy, but you don't really notice it too much in hand. I'm not going to get on that. Let's go ahead and get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. Where are you? T8. I'm pretty sure that the pivot screw here is a T8, which it is. And all the body screws are T6. I really wish Miguron would move to T8. But okay, not a deal breaker. As long as you have quality tools and a place to put your hardware, you should be good to go. Just a couple on each side, which does make it minimal, and that's really, really nice. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness here really quick. I'm going to take a guess at 140, maybe 135. Nope, even less, 125 thousandths, which is pretty good. Let's see here. Have we done everything? We weighed it. We did the hardware check. We did the, yeah, okay. I don't think I'm missing anything. I'm rushing through this because I got to point out that this is a really good looking knife. And, you know, it has kind of traditional generic lines. I mean, there's nothing super unique going on with the handle or the blade shape, but they've done things pretty well here. Ergonomically, it's comfortable in the sense that the pocket clip is not digging into your hand and all of the edges are nicely chamfered down. It also has beautiful diamond texturing. Man, I feel like Miguron is the first Chinese production company to really nail what it was that I was talking about for the last 5 years. This is awesome. It's perfect in terms of traction, and you know, the look of it is beautiful. It's kind of like micro. It's just really, really nice. They've been doing this a lot lately, and I love it. Don't stop doing this, Miguron. This is a really nice pattern. You can all, I mean, any type of pattern honestly is fine, but I love the diamond texture stuff, and I know a lot of other people do too. This is really great. You can choke up on this, and it works pretty darn well. There's plenty of room in the forward choil, and the flipper tab doesn't get in the way too bad. Where it's a little awkward is in the standard grip because your middle finger falls right on this hump. This should be kind of either more gradual or there should be a more distinct single finger area. I can't think of too many people who have an index finger that's this big. I know that there are a few of you out there, and I know you guys are all going to tell me, oh, I'm a giant person, right? Okay, that's fine, right? But the vast majority of people, and I mean the vast majority of people, do not have fingers that big. It could be a little bit smaller, and it would be a little bit less awkward and more comfortable. In this grip, it's fine because there's quite a bit of spacing between this finger and my index finger when I grip a knife like this, just naturally. That's how my hand spreads out. So this is pretty comfortable. Truthfully, I think there's a few different ways they could have done this. I think that on this version, like the flipper version, I think the thumb stud is completely and totally unnecessary, and I think it's too far forward. It's actually still slightly in the cutting path. You probably could have, you know, gotten rid of that and just done a flipper version, right? And this would have been fine. The fact that it's there is not that big of a deal if you really like thumb studs, but honestly, if they really wanted to do a thumb stud version, they should have done a version where they got rid of the flipper tab completely. Just, you know, doing the 180 of this, right? And then this area should have been a little bit, you know, either this point right here, this should have been like a little bit more a gradual change, so you have a little bit more kind of ergonomic freedom. That and removing, you know, the flipper tab, so you just, it's even more ergonomic freedom here, or just shorten this area up so that it's more distinct here or here. But it's not bad the way that it is. This is just so close to being an absolute home run that I'm getting really nitpicky, right? It makes the tiny flaws seem a little bit bigger, but I want to emphasize that it's really not that bad. So this should have been flipper or thumb stud, But even just with flipper, right, like doing it like this, I think this area just should have been less, not quite as much, right? Now, that leads to an aesthetic that is insanely common. We have seen this aesthetic so many times in the knife world on so many different designs. It's kind of just this minimal folding steak knife rectangle thing, right? And sometimes it's done poorly, and sometimes they chamfer the edges down and they think about things and it works a lot better, right? This is another variant of that profile, but it's on the better side, especially when you consider all of the teeny tiny little details and the execution of things, right? And especially the materials. I kind of like that we've got a little accent on the thumb studs, but I also think that they should offer it without the accent on the thumb studs. And truthfully, for all I know, they do. This is the only version of it that I've ever seen. I didn't search very much, and usually there's another variant, right? Another color setup. But maybe not, right? So you might have to look around a bit. They have they call this a high-end sandblasting. I don't know what that means. It looks like a basic bead blasted or media blasted finish. I kind of wish that they had done a medium polished stonewashed or like a glass blasting, just something with a little bit more reflectivity, so we have better contrast with the scales. But as it is, it's fine, and it's not really going to affect the blade too much because S90V is a stainless composition. So unless you plan on working with this knife in the ocean or somewhere near large bodies of water for a long period of time, or just water in general for a long period of time, you'll probably be okay, right? I really wish that we could get at the fuller. I think that maybe shaving this area down a little more and removing the thumb stud, right? There's another reason I don't want the thumb stud there on this flipper version, is the fuller could have been moved back and a little more room, or this little like area right here, instead of being like whoop, just more of a gradual change, which means that would mean, or that would lead to more of this fuller being exposed, right? If the flipper tab, or if the thumb stud wasn't here and the flipper tab, or if the thumb stud wasn't here, the fuller moved back and this area a little more gradual, kind of extended out to here, right? Then you would have total access to that fuller and you could flip it or reverse flick it or whatever you wanted, right? If you care about fidget factor, then you might agree with me. If you don't, then you're not going to care at all. The edges on the spine are nicely knocked down. The flat carries out to about 75 to 80% the length of the blade, and there's plenty of material carried out to the tip. This is pretty straight, and then a pretty aggressive curvature up to the tip. You'll have plenty of slicing power, slicing belly, etc., and you'll still be able to poke. It'll perform just fine as an S90V geometry, absolutely. The whole presentation of the knife is very, like kind of modern, contemporary, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too about that. I don't know if I really want to throw that many syllables at it. We've seen this shape before. It looks good. There's a reason a lot of people like it, right? There's no lanyard thing. I don't really care. Some people might. There's a titanium backspacer, a full titanium backspacer, even though it's a small one. It is a tie backspacer, which is more expensive to do than just doing your standoffs. And there is a full 3D milled pocket clip. It's right hand only. They did not mount it for lefty carry. Sorry, lefties. I wish that there were more lefty knives, but there aren't, and a lot of companies just do right-handed stuff. Curiously, they have mounted this clip a little lower in favor of this particular screw right here, which I've always said is stupid. It's not that the deeper the carry, the better, but in this case, it's dropping the clip down to about a medium carry depth, and I know a lot of people would prefer that it be a little bit higher. It doesn't matter that much. I just think it's really weird, right, to have a screw here, but okay, that's a pretty nitpicky thing. We do have a steel lock bar insert that's doubling as the over travel stop, and we have a stop pin located in its traditional position with a little bit of shouldering. It obviously does run on bearings. I probably said that, but if I didn't and you didn't know, it's running on bearings. There is no blade play up, down, left, or right. Your organic lockup is something like 25 to 35%, which is fine. There's absolutely no hint of lock stick, no double clutch, no pivot lash, and it is very smooth in here. Not quite a click detent, but kind of a clicky thuddy, a clud, right? But there's no detent lash at all, and the blade is perfectly centered, which is fine. This knife comes in at $170. There's a couple of nitpicky things here, but really, especially now knowing the range that is appropriate for S90V, right? When it comes to cutlery, which again is not its primary application. Wow, this is a really good deal. And honestly, looking back at some of my other reviews, that would have gone so much further. I really am considering going back and adding something in the title of those reviews saying, go down in the description, I want to clarify something, which I'll probably have to do. But like a lot of Miguron's S90V stuff, while the designs weren't perfect and they're a little clunky and not super well thought out in some areas, the fact that their S90V is being heat treated, in my opinion, appropriately, based on my research, right? They're just like all the way around, like the value is substantially higher. But I legitimately think that this is their best one. If you've been holding out for a Miguron and you're just like chewing your fingernails down to the bone and you just can't take it anymore, buy this one. $170. This is stupidly recommendable. It's insane that they're able to get it to this price, even considering that these are made in China. This is very, very good. I really like this knife. It's a little bit quirky, but man, we've never seen this level of value in terms of like the beautiful machining, the texturing, right? The S90V, just the overall execution of everything. I don't think that this really needs to go on anymore. This is a very recommendable knife, and it's like I've said in past Miguron reviews, I'm watching them like a hawk right now because I know that, I know they can do the execution. They obviously are using S90V and heat treating it properly, right? The moment that they get a design that just absolutely flows perfectly and organically with no lines or weird things out of place, they're on the path to create an evergreen, right? That's absolutely what I feel like is going to happen. So keep an eye on Miguron if you still want to wait, but if you don't want to wait, this is the one to get. Very recommendable. It'll go on my most recommended knives playlist. That's going to be pretty much it today. I'm realizing that I don't know where my little leather card is, so I'm going to use the metal one. Thanks again to Miguron for letting me check this out. Like I said, it'll be linked down in the description. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.